I'm in a little bit of a chaotic location today. You're just gonna have to kind of deal with that. So I had originally planned to do bi-monthly wrap-ups, so every 2 months I would do a wrap-up. But now that we're halfway through February, and I'm looking at how much I've already read in February, I'm starting to feel like that maybe doesn't make that much sense, because I don't want the wrap-ups to be too long. So now I'm gonna do a super late wrap-up for the 3 books that I read in January, just so that I don't have to deal with them in a later wrap-up, and I'm just gonna wrap up February on its own. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna like transition completely into just doing monthly wrap-ups. I guess that will depend on how much I'm reading, but maybe. I feel like if I read at least 3 books a month, then I could just do monthly wrap-ups, even if the videos are a little bit shorter. I'm just gonna wrap up the 3 books that I read in January now, and then in a couple weeks, I'll wrap up the books that I've read in February. So, obviously I finished these books a little while ago, but I can still remember what they're about. I finished 3 books in January, but I also started 2 more that I got pretty far into in January, but that I finished in February, so they will be in February's wrap-up. But I will have counted those pages that I read in January for my like total page count for January. So just so you know, I read 2,441 pages in January, which means that I read 79 pages a day on average, which I think is really good. Honestly, I read like 50 pages a day on average for over last year, so I've definitely picked up my reading in this year. I think being on BookTube has really motivated me, to be honest, and plus I've just been enjoying reading, and I'm doing my thesis right now, so I'm definitely procrastinating by reading. Okay, so I read 1 fantasy, 1 science fiction, and 1 kind of general fiction, and I read 2 adult books and 1 middle grade. And for ratings, I read 1 4.5 stars and 2 4.25 stars because I started giving quarter stars this year. Not even half stars are enough for me anymore. Everything in that 4.25 to 4.5 range, which is great. Like I didn't have a 5-star, I didn't have something that completely knocked me out of the park, but it was still, you know, really good stuff. I had a really good time with what I was reading. Okay, now I'll kind of go in like chronological order of when I read the books. And so the very first book that I finished, that I actually read half of in 2020, was Towers of Midnight by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Now this is the second to last book in the Wheel of Time series, so the 13th book. And in the editions that I've been reading, this is the thickest book, which I don't know why, because this is not, in word count, this isn't the longest, but I don't know. In the editions that I've been reading, this has been the biggest. It's over 1,200 pages, so it was a bit of a chonker to get through, but I thought it was really good. Obviously, I can't tell you that much about the plot because it's book 13 in a series, you know? Like, if you don't know what the Wheel of Time is, then it's like this massive, epic, high fantasy series, 14 books, like giant stakes, a really large world, lots of world building. I don't know how to tell you about the Wheel of Time if you don't really already know about it, but crazy, giant, high fantasy. In this book, we get a lot. Like, even though it's over 1,200 pages, I didn't think it felt slow. Like, a lot of stuff went down. Like, we had family reunions, we had, you know, a trial, we had assassins, we had, like, all these long-awaited confrontations, we had, like, technological advancement, a rescue mission, visions of a bleak future, and, like, finally a little bit of a positivity from our chosen one, which is nice to see. But yeah, so there was a lot in this one, and you can really feel that this is the second to last book. Like, it's really ramping up for, like, the final battle. Lots of stuff has to fall into place, lots of people need to get where they need to get, you know, but it wasn't boring at all. Like, that makes it sound boring that it was just set up. And well, I mean, it was set up for the final battle, but so was the whole series, I guess. But like, a lot of stuff went down. We got some crazy confrontations, like some stuff that we've been waiting for. It was just, I thought it was a really good time. I gave it 4.5 stars. I didn't think it was quite a 5-star. I don't really know why, but coming out of it, I thought 4.5, really good. I've enjoyed the Wheel of Time for the absolute most part of the series. There was a bit there in the slog that I was like, ugh, I don't know about this. But since the slog ended, like, book 11 on has been my favorite chunk of the series. Like, book 11, 12, and now 13 have been my favorites in the series, which has been a great time, you know? I'm really glad that the series is really going out on a high, you know, that it hasn't, like, dwindled. And obviously, I can't recommend that you pick up this book, but if you do like high fantasy and like more like traditional fantasy, maybe if you're a big fan of Tolkien and stuff, you kind of want to see like that transition fantasy has gone through, like from Tolkien to like more modern, like Brandon Sanderson kind of stuff, then I think you could pick up The Wheel of Time, but obviously it's, you know, it's a big commitment. So, I mean, I don't begrudge you if you don't really feel like you have the energy, but I've been really enjoying it, and this second to last book was a great time. The second book that I finished, and the first book that I actually started in 2021, was Calibans War by James S.A. Corey. This is the second book in the Expanse series. The Expanse series is this like epic sci-fi series. It's got 8 books right now, and the 9th and final book is coming out this year. And so I started reading the series last year. I mean, it's like very high stakes, very like space opera, very cinematic, and like you can kind of feel that it's like kind of like an action movie, which I think is a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun, honestly. It's been turned into a TV series too, but I don't think the TV series is quite living up to what I wanted. I've only seen the first season because I don't want to be spoiled for the books. I don't know, it's not quite the same for me, but I've been really enjoying the books. In this second book, we continue following one of our 2 protagonists from the first book. And if you've read the first book, I think you can figure out which of the 2 we keep following, just based on the ending of the first book. So we keep following him, and then we also get like 3 new perspectives, which I thought were really good. Like, I thought the new perspectives added a lot to the book, both because they're, you know, new people, different people, and we get really new perspectives. Like, we get one perspective that's someone, like a politician on Earth, which you might be like, why would I want that? It's a, you know, it's a space series. But I thought that really added a lot. You get that kind of context, and you get, you know, a Martian perspective. You really kind of widen the world with the new perspectives that you got. And, you know, there was a lot that went down in this book. We got some really high stakes stuff. I really enjoyed the new characters, the new protagonists. I thought they added a lot. And I always love seeing like the protagonists come together. Like, even in the first book, it was just 2, but they like started out in completely different situations and different locations, and then they like came together. And this one we got like 4 different people in 4 different places, and then they all like and I find that so satisfying. I don't know why. I just love seeing how they react to each other. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.25 stars. Why I landed on that exactly, I couldn't tell you. I thought the ending was maybe a little bit disappointing, and that pulled the book down a little bit for me. Otherwise, I probably would have given it a 4.5. So this was the book that made me feel like I needed to add half stars, or like not half stars, quarter stars to my rating system, because I gave the first book 4 stars, and I liked this one more, but I didn't think I quite liked it enough to give it 4.5. So I gave it 4.25, and now suddenly I'm using quarter stars. I don't know what I'm doing. But so I really did enjoy it, and I am definitely excited to pick up the third book. It isn't like quite at the top of my next TBR, but I am going to probably buy it the next time I put in an order for books. So it will be coming to me in not too long. But I really did enjoy this one. I thought it was a lot of fun. You know, if you like space and like action movies and stuff to get like a little creepier and more intense that you were maybe expecting, like a little bit more body horror than you were fully prepared for, then I think it has something to offer. Like, honestly, I think it's fun. I haven't traditionally been like a sci-fi reader, but this series is like kind of converting me, honestly. And finally, the last book that I read, that I finished in January, is just a little small, 150 pages long. I call it a novella. I don't know if you really call it a novella, but for, you know, middle grade. And it's this one. It's called Doris Book by Marilyn Sachs. I have the Swedish version here, but it's an American author, and the book is originally in English. But I just read it in Swedish because this is a book that I read as a child, so I reread it, and for the nostalgia, it makes a lot more sense to read it in the original version that I read, so the Swedish version. And this is like, I don't know, general fiction. It's written in the 70s and takes place in the 70s, so it kind of feels like historical fiction to me now. But obviously I can't class it as historical fiction because it was written as a contemporary at the time. So, but I can't class it as a contemporary because it's not contemporary to me right now. So, I don't know, I just put it as like general fiction. And it's a middle grade about this girl called Dorrie, or I think her name is Pandora actually, which is honestly a pretty cool name, but they call her Dorrie. And she's been an only child for 11 years since she was born. And then her mother gets pregnant again. And her mother has really wanted another child, so it's this big, you know, celebratory thing for the family. But Dorrie's like, I don't know. Like, she really enjoys being an only child, so she's like not super excited. But she like, you know, she gets into it and she's like, okay, maybe it'll be okay. But then it turns out that her mother has triplets, as you can see on the cover. Triplets, which obviously kind of upends the family's life. It changes a lot. They have to move, Dorrie has to change schools, you know, they can't do all the stuff that they used to do. She, you know, she was a little bit spoiled. She used to do a lot with her parents. They used to go to a lot of like theater and like all these things. And obviously they can't do that if they have 3 infants. So Dorrie's life is, you know, ruined. Or she thinks it's ruined. And this book is written in first person. It's written as if Dorrie's writing it, because within the book, like, they get an assignment to like write a book for school. So this is Dorrie's book that she's writing for school. And so she's writing about all the struggles of her life, you know? Honestly, for most of the book, I found Dorrie incredibly obnoxious. I have to say, like, as a child reading this, I don't think I thought so. I think I agreed with Dorrie on a lot of things, like, oh, damn, parents just don't get it. Like, but reading it now as an adult, I'm like, Dorrie, come on. Like, she is very much so an 11-year-old only child. She's a bit full of herself. She's a bit, you know, selfish and all those things. But I mean, that's understandable. And I do think she goes through a lot of growth in the book. And she does get very much so called out for like her bullshit, especially in the ending. So I thought the book really, you know, wrapped it up a lot very nicely. I also love that the book actually has like little illustrations. Like, these are supposed to be her, like, her siblings that she's like drawn like in her book, which I think is so cute. Like, they're little drawings that look like a kid did it. I think that's just so cute. I gave this 4.25 as well. Why I didn't give it more, I don't know. I guess it didn't connect with me more than that. I found Dorrie a little bit too obnoxious to give it more than that. But it was super nostalgic reading this, because I hadn't read this book since I was like, I don't know, 12, 13. I read it many times as a kid, but it's been a long time. So I didn't really remember I remember the premise, but I didn't really remember the plot beats. So reading it again was like, just like certain, especially the drawings, really like, whoa, shit, like memory flash, you know? I don't know. I thought it was fun. I don't know if I recommend it to like an adult who didn't read it as a kid. Maybe, I mean, if you think the premise sounds fun, like, I mean, and it's very short, so, I mean, it's not gonna take you long. You can probably read it in one sitting. But, like, I don't know if I'd recommend it. It depends. It's up to you. But for me, it was a really nostalgic, like, reread. So I can't really, you know, complain about it. But yeah, so those were the 2 books that I finished in January, which was a couple of weeks ago now. And then I also started 2 more books, which were the next book, The Wheel of Time and Memory of Light, as well as Sense and Sensibility. But I will talk about those in my February wrap up when I do that in a couple weeks. I had a really good time in January. I had, you know, it was kind of a mixed bag, honestly, like a big ass fantasy, a pretty big ass sci-fi, and then just like a fun little, you know, reminiscing kids book. I don't know, it was a pretty good blend for me. You know, I had a lot of fun with it. Now, if you've read any of these books, then let me know, or if you're like thinking about picking up one of the series that I've been reading, Wheel of Time or The Expanse, then absolutely like comment and say that below. Especially Wheel of Time. I feel like a lot of people are like thinking about picking up the Wheel of Time right now because the series, or like the TV series, is coming out. And so I feel like I'm kind of ahead of the curve. I feel good about that. I'm super excited about the TV show. Like, my expectations are like through the roof. I will be so sad if I don't, like, if it doesn't live up to my expectations. I can't imagine how people who have been like long-time fans of the Wheel of Time are feeling. Like, I would be so stressed, honestly. Those were the books I read. I will be back in like a couple of weeks to do my February wrap-up. This was just a way late January wrap-up. But until then, I hope you have a good time reading whatever you're reading, and I'll see you back here next time.